about this process of opening up to each other, to the system, and to ourselves. But I realized, and I must say I realized the hard way, that this is really an inadequate or an incomplete model. And so I want to share with you the fourth of the four models that have derived from these experiences. I went back to Guatemala for the 10th anniversary of Vision Guatemala in 2008, 10 years after the origin. It was very nice to see my friends again. It's nice to see that some things had improved in Guatemala. Certainly dialogue had replaced genocide as a default mode for addressing complex social problems. So there had been some progress. But in many ways things were still very difficult. And there was one remark that really caught my attention. One of my friends on the team, an NGO activist called Clara Arenas, said to me, Adam, you know this dialogue stuff you talked to us about 10 years ago, you might be interested to know that a few weeks ago, the coalition of NGOs of which I'm a part took out a full-page advertisement in the newspaper saying we would not participate in any more dialogue processes. And I was really surprised, and I said, well, why is that, Clara? She said, well, you know, our experience is that when we participate in dialogue processes with the government, they expect us to stop marching in the streets during the dialogue. In other words, they expect us to replace using the only tool we have, which is mass mobilization, with for the privilege of being able to talk. And that's simply a trade-off that we're not willing to accept. So what I realized from this story is there had to be something more here than simply dialogue. There had to be simply something more to addressing complex and conflictual social challenges than simply opening up. And I really started then to think about what had I missed in my understanding and in this first book. And the conclusion I came to is the following, that in fact there is not one, but two movements which are required. And this is the subject of the second book, which we launched here today. There are two dynamics that are important here if you're interested in peacefully addressing complex and conflictual social challenges. One of the dynamics is this opening. I use the word, and I know it's not the usual word to use, I'll explain why in a minute, but I use the word love for this first dynamic, this first drive, this opening up and reconnecting, which was central to the book Solving Tough Problems. But I realized from the Clara Arenas story that there's a second dynamic here which is equally important, which is the drive of each actor to do what it's trying to do, to get on with its job, and I call that power. Now I realize that I've chosen two words which are a bit confusing. They have many meanings. I want to be very clear about what I'm saying. None of what I'm saying makes sense if you don't understand the definitions I'm using. I'm using two definitions from a German-American Protestant theologian named Paul Tillich. I'm not using it because I have any particular allegiance to German-American theology. In fact, I never knew anything about it. But I find that Tillich's definitions explain a huge amount of what I have experienced over the past 20 years. Tillich says that love is the drive to the unity of the separated. Love is the drive to the unity of the separated. The implication being that there is an underlying unity. There is an underlying unity which appears to be fragmented and which needs to be rediscovered. And this is what I have seen in Montclair with the reconnection after apartheid, in Guatemala with the re-knitting of the social fabric. Power without love is reckless and abusive. In other words, self-realization without unity is reckless and abusive. Everybody doing their thing, trying to get on with their job, with asserting what they want, what they need, what they believe in, without a sense of connection to others, is reckless and abusive. But King went on to say, and love without power is sentimental and anemic. Unity that denies self-expression, that denies self-realization, is sentimental and anemic. And this, I'm arguing in this new book, is the rebalancing that's required. Power without love, as we know, is reckless and abusive, but it's equally true that love without power is sentimental and anemic. And if we are to be successful at peacefully addressing complex social challenges, we need to work with both. Often we find ourselves with an imbalance, more power than love or more love than power. The solution is not when there's more power than love, when there's more self-expression than unity, to suppress or reduce power. The solution is to strengthen love, to strengthen connection. And similarly, when there's more love than power, when there's more togetherness than there is self-expression, the solution is not to diminish the connection, but rather to try to grow the power. So, in summary, 20 years of experience, 20 years of trying to answer the question, how can we peacefully address our most complex and conflictual social challenges? And the answer I'm giving in summary is that we can only do so through building containers that allow us to work in a way which is simultaneously systemic, participative, and emergent. Containers that enable us to spend at least some of our time not in downloading and debating, but in dialoguing and presencing. Containers that allow us to co-sense, to co-presence, and to co-create. And containers that allow us to learn to work both with power and with love. This is how we can peacefully address our most